Okay, great. So, hi everyone, and thank you for logging on. Welcome to our second webinar, Preparing Early Career Researchers for Jobs in Industry and Government, organized by the Plant Postdoc Slack. I am Allison Barnes, and I'll be moderating this webinar. I am a postdoc at North Carolina State University and a Plant Postdoc Slack member. So first, I'm just going to give you all a brief introduction into the structure of today's seminar, or webinar, sorry. So it's a 60-minute webinar, and in the first couple minutes, I'm going to explain the format here, and then I will let Sunil Kumar introduce the Plant Postdoc Slack. So after that, I will be introducing the panelists for today's webinar. And each panelist will talk for about 5 minutes, mostly highlighting their personal experiences of navigating the job market. So you all are going to be listeners for the first half, and in the latter half, we'd like you to interact with the speakers. So any questions, comments, inquiries about the job market, sure, they'll be happy to take your questions and share their experiences. So throughout the webinar, including while they're speaking during the first half, we would like you to submit your questions through the Q&A box, and then I will choose some questions from there to present them to the panel for their response. So I will do my best to mention who's asking the question, and then if you wish to interact with the speakers for any clarifications, just use the raise hand feature in Zoom and we will unmute you. So due to the expected number of participants, we're going to have to follow this question and answer policy so that we can try to stay organized and on track. So with this, I'm going to pass it on to Sunil, and once again, welcome to our very first webinar, or sorry, our second webinar.
Thanks, Allison. Hello, everyone. My name is Sunil Kanchanmane Raju. I'm the co-founder of Plant Postdoc Slack. I'm a postdoc at Michigan State University, studying stress adaptation in plants through comparative epigenomics. So the idea for Plant Postdoc Slack occurred to me when I was talking to Arif Ashraf, a postdoc in UMass Amherst, and the co-founder of Plant Postdoc Slack. So we're talking about how postdoc positions are always transient, and then we are constantly in the lookout for a more permanent job in industry and academia. And there are so many finer details of the job application process that most of us do not know or do not have the mentors to guide us in the right directions. So this creates a huge disparity that's not related to your science or your ability to do the job, your ability to get the job. So that's when we thought about cooperative advantage. What that means is cooperative advantage suggests that the world would be a better place if the knowledge and resources are shared as much as they are protected. So what if we all came together and shared application material or interview tips and resources with each other? So this will level the playing field, at least for the application and the interview process. So together as a community, we can peer review each other's application material, provide advice, share information about opportunities, and finally benefit everyone in the process. So that was the idea behind starting this group. I'll briefly mention the resources that are available. You can see it on the screen. We have a Slack group to chat about the job opportunities, applications, and interview process. We have a Twitter account where we share information on job ads and other related tweets. We just started a editable Google spreadsheet with current jobs and their status, leveraging information from members of Plant Postdoc Slack throughout the world, and also through social media. So in the near future, we are going to come up with a spreadsheet where you can volunteer to enroll your name for peer reviewing. And then we will share this with the journal editors periodically so that you can gain experience in peer reviewing. We'll be sharing more details about this on Twitter. So these are some of the initiatives that we thought will benefit the plant community. And we are new at this and keen to hear your thoughts on this. As we grow, we want to expand to all other possible career paths for plant biologists including entrepreneurs and science policy makers. So if you wish to join our group, if you are a plant postdoc, just go and visit plantpostdocs.com, and then there is information about joining the group. If you want to know information about what we are doing, you can follow us on Twitter. So as part of this initiative, we have started this webinar series with the idea that having early career scientists who recently got jobs in industry or academia will be able to share their perspective of navigating this job application process that will be complementary to most other workshops where you have panel members as senior scientists who have experience serving on search committees. So right now our plan is to have one academic webinar and one industry webinar in fall and spring each year. This is our second webinar for spring 2020. The first one was focused on academia, and you can see the recorded version on YouTube channel. Once again, thanks for joining us today. And with that, I'll let Allison take over.
Okay, thank you, Sunil. So we'll start doing our introductions and sort of experience statements from our scientists. And so the first one we will start with is Samantha McConaughey, who is finishing up her PhD at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln and is starting at Bayer Cropscience in May, I think she just said.
Thank you, Allison. And I'm gonna attempt to share my screen too. I just have a few slides I thought would be easier for everyone to see them at once. Pull them up here. All right, I hope everyone can see that okay. Okay, perfect. So I kind of broke it down into 3 different areas that I thought would be helpful to at least obtain the job. So I think you need to know yourself, you need to have a plan, and then you need to take action upon that plan. And just a little bit of background. So most of my work, actually all my graduate work, has been in soybeans. So I did my master's in the field in plant breeding with Dr. Graff, and I am finishing my PhD with Dr. Heighton, more on the applied genomics side. We basically are a genotyping facility, our lab is. And so the first part, what I mean by know yourself, is definitely take advantage of the workshops and activities that help get to know you. What sort of things do you like to do? What would you like to do in a career? Do you work better independently, or do you work better on a team? How are you motivated? And once you know that about yourself, then you can start to figure out how you can work well with others. Based upon your personality. Oh, sorry if I go in and out. It says my internet's not stable, but basically know yourself and take advantage of those opportunities that come to you. And then have a plan. So you can have a career developmental plan. That's actually what my PhD advisor gave to me. It was a plan that says, what would you like to do? What skills do you currently have? And what skills are you lacking? And a big opportunity to do that is wherever you're at right now, go online and start finding jobs that you like and copy and paste them into a Word document and keep that Word document going. And then you will be able to start to see what qualifications you don't have that you need or that you lack. And then once you figure out where your gap is, it's almost kind of like a literature review, then you take those gaps and seek out opportunities to fill those gaps. And so you want to know where those gaps are. Is it within coursework that you could take an extra class in statistics if you want to be more of an analyst? Is it personal development? Is it networking opportunities? Do you want to build upon certain industries? And one thing that helped me with the job application was actually Cheeky Scientist. I did not join the association, but I utilized their free resources online. As soon as I changed my resume into the format of their resume is when I actually started getting calls about job interviews. And the big difference on their resume, at the top, you have 3 summary bullet points, and you want to customize those to every single job you apply to. And one really good tip is take the job description, copy and paste it into a word cloud. And in that word cloud, the word that comes up the most, if you think you have that qualification, which you should if it aligns with what you've been studying and what you want to do, then make sure that's on your resume, because they're using algorithms to match you to get through the first phase anyway. And so you want to make sure, as you said in the beginning, Sunil, that everybody's on an even playing field. So being able to kind of get through that first hoop, so an actual person reviews your resume, I thought was huge for me and what I utilized in Cheeky Scientist. The next step with applying, definitely apply 9 months to a year out before a job. At least that's what worked for me. The job that I got that I'll start in May, I applied to in September. And I didn't hear about the first interview until November. I thought, oh, there's no way. That's been such a long time not to hear from anybody. But no, it took quite a while versus a different company that I interviewed and got a job offer with. They were within a week. They reached out. So it's pretty variable. And that was both within private industry. So just keep your options open. I kept a large Excel spreadsheet with what job I applied to at what company when, and then check the status of it. And then when you go to interview, be yourself, be personable, be friendly, be kind, do background research about the company ahead of time. And that way you're really prepared. Definitely prepare those behavioral interview questions. And I would also like to thank the organizing committee for inviting me today. I really appreciate it. And if anybody has any questions, feel free to email me or LinkedIn if we don't get to them today. And thanks, everyone.
Okay, thank you, Sam. Sorry, I am still not very good at Zoom, despite all of our Zoom meetings, so I'm struggling to remember how to mute and unmute myself. Okay, so I'm gonna go back to sharing my screen. Okay, so our second speaker today is Maria Katherine Mejia-Guerra, and she is the Breeding Insights Bioinformatics Coordinator for the USDA through Cornell University.
Hello, hi. I am going to try to share my screen too, because I have just slides that are going to help me to go through my 5 minutes.
Okay.
Okay, so thank you for the invitation. I am really glad to have the opportunity to share a little bit of what I have been learning through my journey. And it has been quite of a journey. This is just a little bit of the geography of the place from which I came from. So we all come from very different places. So that also means like very different realities, right? And we don't necessarily have the information to be able to navigate a system that is even foreign as a country. So I come from the northest point of South America, and then I traveled to a big city in my country, which is actually not that small. I live in Ithaca, so big city now. And then I traveled to the capital of my country, and then I come to the US for my PhD 10 years ago. And then I moved to Ithaca, New York for my postdoc in the Buckler Lab. And I stay here for what I consider right now my dream job, because I am really happy with the job in which I landed. So something that I think is in common for everybody is that type of journey when you are now trying to get into a job, is to trying to join the points of what has been your expertise and the type of skills that you've been acquiring through the process, and trying to join the dots. And this is more or less like what I did. I did something similar to what Samantha did. Is I started to point, okay, what actually I know, what I am able to contribute to any place as with the skills or knowledge, and then trying to join them and going to the target job. It means that you are actually keep iterating and changing those skills, because not everybody is interested in the same set of skills. But if you can have something like an overlap in which you have a set of skills that you can put together inside of a big broad umbrella that is your target job, your dream job, and you can convey that into the material that you are presenting to them, you can get the job, or at least you can get an interview. And that gets me to the first point, that is, how did you strategize to get to this position? And I basically started interviewing very early. I started applying when I was 1 year maybe in my postdoc. And since then, I started applying to diverse jobs that looked like maybe something that I was interested in doing. And that helped me just to get better. So this is something that you learn by training. So if you can expose yourself as enough training, you can do it. And I started then preparing my application package very early. The industry package are very different and not to the academic one. So that also means that you don't need the statement for teaching or inclusion things. So you just need to put maybe a set of short curriculum, but then you keep tailoring your short curriculum and your cover letter depending of the position that you want to get. And that usually you get better with practice to see the application that they have posted and trying to replicate the same wording so you can actually get a match. So you have to look yourself as you are actually a match for the job. And I learned that by preparing my application and get better to submitting and applying to diverse jobs. I use diverse resource. I think that we have a small Plan Postdoc channel replicated into our lab. So we use Slack, and we have a specific channel in our Slack to post diverse applications and materials. So we use ourselves as a network in the lab to prepare the documents. And I was also part of the PANSIA grant. That was a big grant that involved many PIs. And we have frequently seminars. So people was encouraged to share the experience about job applications and then be able to use that as a common bank to, I think Jeff Rossi Barra, that was also a PI there, have almost all the material online in GitHub. So I have those resources and I use them. And I got a lot of help. I asked for a lot of help. I asked to my colleagues, I asked to my mentors, I asked mentors, not necessarily for my postdoc mentor, but I also asked my postdoc mentor a lot. So with that, I think I just quickly cover what I was asked, and I will let the next person the space to talk. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. So I will, okay. Thank you very much. So we will next hear from Samira Mafi Moghaddam, who is a genomics data scientist at Benson Hill.
Well, I want to thank you for the invitation as well, and also for organizing this. This is so great. I mean, I know that Sunil really put a lot of effort in this, and I think this is a great opportunity. So I guess with everything that was covered, I would say for me, I started applying mostly pretty much, I would say 6 to 9 months before I thought my appointment in postdoc was about to finish. At that time, I never thought about industry before exactly, so writing a resume was pretty new for me because the only thing that I had at that time was a CV. So with that, I started talking with my colleagues and my friends who were working in industry also, because I wanted to keep an open mind, and basically also started looking at resume. I used the different resources like the one that Samantha said. I also looked at the Cheeky Scientists. They have like a free, I think, PDF that talks about writing the resume, which I found it helpful, and then did a lot of Googling, searching to get resumes, and also asked my friends to basically share what they had so I could see what successful people's resume looked like. And then with that, I tried to draft my own resume. And as everybody else mentions, basically asked a lot of feedback. That was from my friends, from my colleagues, from my advisor. And everybody who had experience, I asked for feedbacks to improve my resume. Of course, you would want to look at the jobs that you think fit the most, and then make sure, as it was mentioned, you do have the keywords that are important for that job in your resume. So that means you would have like a backbone resume, but for every job, you would need to change and tailor that so it is most suited for that particular job. So it's not going to be one resume that you can send everywhere, but you have to make little changes to that. Still, comparing to academia, I think it's less materials that you have to prepare for your application. Now, some of the jobs I think do require in industry also a cover letter, and some of the jobs don't really require that. Like at Benson Hill, it was an optional, which I decided to write a cover letter and include that. Let me see. Okay, one of the resources I found very helpful were the resources similar to what we currently have. When I was at MSU, the Postdoc Association, both at the university level and departmental level, were kind of active, I would say, in holding some of these type of webinars or just in-person activities to both introduce different career paths and also help you, to get familiar with what you need. What is an elevator pitch? What do you need in your resume? And all of those. So I've been actively trying to attend all of these and gather the knowledge. It was like about interview one section. So I went and learned. It can be really difficult to try to gather all of the information you would need for the whole application process in like a very short time. So just being able to gradually prepare yourself and collect the different pieces of information that you find useful over the time, I think would be really, really helpful. And then basically, what I really found useful was spreading the word, because, I mean, obviously we're all looking, online and the job advertisements, but I also found it very useful when I talk with people. So people actually would know that you are in the job market, because a lot of times you might have a colleague or someone that is aware of a position that thinks you're a really good match and they can recommend that to you. Also, networking in a conference with people, I found those to be also very helpful in being able to find the positions and apply for them. And I think with that, I would want to end basically the procedure that I started to look for the jobs and pass it to Jorge here. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so next up is Jorge Venegas, who is the lead for controlled environment at Pairwise Plants.
Hi, everyone. Well, first of all, I would like to congratulate Sunil for compounding and setting up these great webinar series. I think this is critical for the students at postdocs to have access to these kind of tools before entering the job market. So this is great, and thanks for the invitation. So I just want to talk a little bit about my career path and, like passing you all, the tips, that I got like through all these years, like applying for jobs, getting into a job and being rejected too. So, but I'm gonna try to be concise, yes, in these next 5 minutes. So, after finishing my master's degree, I returned to my country. I spent 5 years there working for a forestry company, and it was great. But after those 5 years, we decided with my wife to return to US. I spent 7 months applying for jobs and couldn't land anything. So it was super frustrating. Decided to go back to school and pursue my PhD. And this is super important, and Sam already mentioned this during her presentation. So when you started a program, and this is so super important, that the students understand that you need to tailor your program in order to to make yourself more marketable. And that's what I did. And Sam did the same thing. Unfortunately for her, she had an advisor that actually advised, like how to tailor a program. In my case, I needed to put it by myself, but it was super helpful. So, and that's the first thing that people need to do, tailor your program, no matter where you are. If you're a student or if you are a postdoc, trying to bring the new skills, to your program to make yourself more marketable. Second, and this is what I learned during my PhD life. So you need to start selling yourself well from the beginning. That means create your LinkedIn profile and your Twitter profile and be active on it. Every time you get an award, trying to broadcast it by adding it to your profile. So that's super important. And use your university resources to broadcast it. I use the communication office to broadcast my awards, and every time that I was invited to a talk in a conference, etc., because it's not just important what you have in your profile, but also what your future employers find of you on the web. So that's super important. So third, networking. So probably these tips are no, like totally new from most of you guys, but networking is extremely important. So network all the time, vertical and horizontal. So network with your colleagues and network with your future employers. Put yourself out there in those sometimes uncomfy situations where you are the only students and the rest are professionals, but put yourself out there. So, and then, when you are ready, start applying for jobs, start applying early, as most of the other speakers have been said before. So apply, start applying a year or 6 months earlier, just before you graduate or you are ready to actually jump into the job market. Ask friends, professors, mentors to check your CV, resume, get feedback, attend university workshops for resume preparation, and then apply and apply and apply. For the interview process, be ready for technical questions, but as Sam and some of the other speakers said, one of the most important things nowadays are soft skills. So be prepared about it. Because organizations want to bring good people and not team disruptors. So they want to bring good people. They want to feel, that you actually are going to be able to work in teams, that you are going to be able to collaborate with people. Okay, but at the end, having a good resume, put together a good seminar where you highlight how your experience can bring the company department to the next level. That's super important. So spend time in that seminar, because if you're applying for the private industry, you are going to be asked to do that. So put up a pretty good seminar, do your homework, and tailor your seminar based on the company's vision and business model. That's another big advice. So do your homework just before start establishing an interview with the people. Excuse me. So, and that's pretty much my advice. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. So with that, I think we can move to the question and answer session. And so please, I see we have 4 or so questions already in the Q&A box. So I think we'll switch. So I'll stop sharing my screen. So Sunil will share his, and then I will start moderating our questions here. So I think while we're switching over, I can go ahead. I think I had a chance earlier to record the first question, was regarding experience requirements. So this question asker, Jimmy John, recently got rejected due to a lack of experience. They have just submitted their thesis, so they wanted to know if experience is required to get a postdoc while they're applying. So they're asking this because the job advertisement asked for 3 or less than 3 years of experience when they applied for the job. So I think at least 2 of our panelists did postdocs before taking their positions in government and industry. So do you have any insight to share on when you started your postdoc?
I think I did my postdoc without thinking about the need of finding more experience, but more because I still feel like I needed more of that time into the research environment before jumping to a job. And I think that postdoc give you also a little bit more of time to figure things out. I have seen that some of the jobs ask you for not too much experience, but you can always make a short postdoc. It doesn't need to be a long one. I know people that has been 1 year in the postdoc, and that is enough before they actually move to the real job, not the research oriented one if they are interested in something that is not research oriented. So it's not a hard requirement, but even 1 year postdoc can help you to broaden your interest, or maybe to polish those skills that you want to have ready to make yourself more marketable.
So for me, I did have postdoc experience as well. And I also didn't necessarily think about the job market at that point that I did my postdoc. However, I was feeling the need that I wanted to have experience in a complementary but a little bit different field that what I did my PhD in, because as everybody kept saying, it's really important, what are the skills that you would accumulate over time, and that would determine the variety of the job markets for which you can apply. So kind of the more complementary but a little bit broader you would make your experiences, I think it would be easier to find a job. So for example, I did a lot of GWAS population genetics work during my PhD, but I like to have complementary knowledge of the genomics and analysis. So I did other works in my postdoc at MSU, like genome assembly, gene expression analysis. And I feel like that was able to give me a more comprehensive package as a genomics data scientist person. So I could apply, to these type of positions. So it really depends on, how narrow you want to be or how much more experience you want to have. I think there is another point to that, and that is also the level of the job. So I think also in companies, there are different levels. So there are different levels which require different amounts of experience. So potentially, if you would have postdoc experience, you might be able to land a different position than if you don't have it. Again, that's not always 100% true, but it could have an effect in the hierarchy of how you can also improve inside the company as well.
Awesome, thank you. Okay, so the next question I'm going to ask is sort of the flip side of that, which was for Samantha and Jorge. Did you have any barriers to getting a job without having done a postdoc?
I guess I'll go first. So, I mean, obviously, I don't think I would have gotten 2 job offers if it would have been a barrier. I think it depends on the company and how they see your years of experience. So I think because I was in a very applied breeding program, that those years that I worked planting and organizing field structure really helped me with plant breeding jobs. But actually the 2 jobs I got offered, although they were in plant breeding, they weren't field work. They're being a research scientist, essentially a quantitative geneticist. So I don't think that they were barriers. And I knew I wanted to get out of school right away. I like experiences. I like fast pace and a lot of resources. So postdoc was just something that I saw as if I absolutely had to, I would do one. I think they're really great if you want to learn a new skill set or diversify yourself. I think postdocs are a great opportunity. Just for me at the time, it's just not something that I wanted to pursue.
Yeah, I would say, yeah, that would depend on the company. There are companies, some startups that actually they require having a postdoc, and that will totally depend on the leadership team. There are other companies that really value, your expertise that you have created during your PhD or master degree, and sometimes, just like a few months of experience in an internship. So those are pretty good valuable experience. So yeah, I would say in my personal case, well, my career path started like a while ago, like 20 years ago. So I had quite experience, and took some breaks between, my master degree and PhD. Before my master degree, also spent some time working in Central America. So that really helped, for me actually to get a job without having a postdoc. But as Sam said, like if you have a chance to have a postdoc, that's really help you landing a job. But at the same time, that the pay grade is different from somebody, a scientist that have a postdoc versus a scientist that doesn't have a postdoc. So that's good. I mean, it's valuable. Having a postdoc is valuable. It's not required most of the time, though.
Okay. Oh, sorry, I sneezed and now my dog is upset. So I'm going to apologize right now if he starts barking in the background. So we have had several questions on this. So the question is, in regard to needing a work visa impacting your job in industry. So one of the question askers said that a company essentially said, come back to us contact me again when you have your green card. And so how does needing visa sponsorship impact your ability to work in industry? Anybody have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I will probably take the first step on that one. So again, that would depend. That would depend of the company. That would depend also in the political stage that that the country is going. Right now is a little bit more difficult, but like we have companies that they keep hiring people and sponsoring people without a green card. So so I would say that totally depends. I don't think people need to stop applying for jobs if they don't have like already a sponsor. So I think if you are a pretty good scientist and you have the experience that the company wants or require, so they will sponsor people. So I think that's the main thing. So if the skills are there and you are a good person and you are gonna be the good fit for that department at that specific job, so companies are gonna be able to pay that.
Sure, go ahead.
I got my green card last year in July, and I has been applying for jobs with people actually offering me jobs and telling me even some of them willing to wait. So it's possible. Of course, if you see something that say only citizens, well, you don't apply. At least at some of the, for instance, USDA positions, they are strictly for citizens. So I cannot apply to those positions because it's not really worthy of neither their time or my time, right? But my point was more like to say, it's possible, you can find places, you can apply, and in some of them even they are flexible enough that they are willing to wait if you are in the process or maybe to offering a sponsorship. It's maybe more easy to do it when you already have your green card, but sure, but it's not that it's going to be something that necessarily stops you. It's another part of the things that you have to check in the process.
Okay, great, thank you. So now I'm reading through all of your Q&As, and some of you are asking sort of similar questions. So I'm gonna try to combine these into like a multi-leveled question here. So the first part of this is that as you were leaving your last position, how do you start to initiate the conversations with your PI, say maybe you're in the 4th year of your PhD or the last year to 6 months of your postdoc, that you're ready to move on and look for positions and finish up where you're at. And then secondly and thirdly to that, how much support can you expect from your PI? So some seem to give insider referrals to students and postdocs, and some are just like, well, good luck, let me know what you find out. So what were your experiences there? And then lastly, did you find that it was okay to indicate in your CV or resume that you were working on finalizing your thesis? So one of our question askers has done that on their thesis and CV and has not received any good feedback despite, you know, indicating that they are finishing up in a few months. So that's kind of a big question, but I thought they all three pulled together.
I can go first. So I think probably will depend on your advisor and the general maybe environment and culture that you're in it. Personally, my experience was positive during my postdoc. My advisor was very supportive. She even suggested me to look at my resume and was very open to that and help, and you know, always supporting with recommendation letters and everything. I still think it's really important that you do have the conversation and you kind of know when is, you know, the actual time that you originally, you know, plan to end that position, because there should be a clear conversation about that. And, you know, logically, your advisor also knows that you need to be in the job market for a while before your time comes up. So I think they usually would understand and would help you, but it's also important that you keep them in the loop and basically not say, hey, I found a job in 2 weeks and I'm leaving, but you want to, you know, have them in the loop. And I believe they would be supportive to you, and give enough time to kind of wrap up some of the parts of your work before you would leave, and make sure that they know this, so they know that the project is in good hands, at least to certain stages that you're talking about. I think just being able to have a good, honest conversation about your plans and, you know, how would you do this transition with your advisor would actually help to have a nice conversation, supportive, you know, environment for everybody. That would be, I guess, my recommendation.
Anyone else have thoughts on that, or should I move to the next question? Okay, so we have several questions, again, that I'm pulling together. These are about the tricky situation of negotiating your salary post-offer. So does anyone have any advice or resources to know if your offer is fair? And sort of how do you go about doing that negotiation? How much, you know, what can you expect? And do you have any tips on that?
That's always tricky. And I would say the resources that you can use are your networking, and that's why I keep saying network, because that always helps. You know, that you are gonna have people, friends that they are working in other companies, not the one that you're working or you're applying for, but you know they have the same level position that you're applying for, so they can give you feedback. There is other, you know, web sources like Glassdoor, I think so. I think this is one of them. You need to pay for it, but sometimes you just find, you know, like a range. And that range really give you a pretty good sense, you know, what is the salary that you will probably need to negotiate with the company. But it is pretty much, like what do you think you really value, your real value is in the job market, and how comfy you are with that salary. And of course, the other benefits that the company is offering. Sometimes depending on the company, you're getting, part of the stocks of the company. So that is also, a pretty good stuff, part of the package. So I don't think salary is just the only thing that you need to, pay attention. It's also, the entire package. But that's what I think. But use your network.
I agree with Jorge on that. I think it really helped me. Both of the jobs that I got an offer with had very different processes for negotiating salary. One company up front told me, this is a range that we're willing to pay you, and based upon your interview process, we'll offer you something of that range. And so that was pretty straightforward, although always know that you can negotiate or counter if you'd like. I knew I wasn't going to move forward with that, so I didn't negotiate in that process. But with the other company, I did negotiate. And I think it is important that if you think that you weren't given your value, to talk with others that that work at companies, as Jorge said, in similar positions, and they can give you feedback on it. I think that was very enlightening for me and something that I had learned. And they were very receptive when I went back and asked for a salary increase. So I think that you just have to be willing to put it out there and have your reasons, the justifications for it. As long as you're not rude about it, in my personal opinion, and you're open and honest about it, they're not going to take away your job offer just by you negotiating salary, as long as it's within reason, of course.
I think they expect you to negotiate. So that is the first point. So don't worry about having to get into that conversation, because it's something that they expect, and they are actually more used to you than to do it. So you are maybe the first time landing a job, so you don't know how to do that. But the people that is hiring, they know how to do that. So the negotiation is something that is expected, and people is not going to feel surprised because you are bringing that to the table. If you have a number that that is kind of your lower bound and you are not willing to negotiate because it's something in terms of your expectation or family needs, that also is good. So it helps you to know if that is an offer that you can consider, or if definitely is not for you. And for me, I looked into the number, for instance, that similar positions were paying in different databases, like H-1B visas. They have a certain requirement to be paid. They cannot be lower than the national people is offered. So that type of numbers can maybe help you to give you an idea of how much a similar job is being paid, and the network, of course. So my advisor has seen many postdocs getting jobs, so he might have a better idea of which are the numbers that are being offered in different industry jobs or academia. So I went and asked, and actually something that we routinely been saying in the lab to ask before we leave, so they can help with the negotiation. And I even emailed my PhD advisor with one of the offers that I got, asking him if that was something that was in what he have seen before. And that helped me to figure out, and then making an offer, a counter offer for the hiring process. It went okay. It's not I think it's you are more afraid than what you should.
Okay, great. So the next question is, what did you think was the best way to get to know the companies that you are applying to? So you all spoke a lot about tailoring your cover letter, tailoring your resume to the specific job. And so we can look at a job listing, right? We can read and look for the keywords, but what about the company overall? What did you find was the best way to get to know where you were applying?
So the best, sorry, you're saying like the best way to know the company?
Yeah, so
right?
I think what's the best way to know the company so that you can be sure that you're tailoring your resume and your cover letter appropriately?
Yeah, there is a lot of information out there, of the company. So where you can actually see videos, of the company, be focused on the mission, vision, and, business model of the company. That's important. So because that's going to give you the sense of pretty much, where the company is going, what products the company is delivering, what is the structure of the company, who is the leadership team in the company, so CEO, CBO, vice presidents, etc. So you can find, the names of those people. You can find, the background of those people. So that's going to give you an idea, who actually is building out the company, who lead the company. So that's pretty much the homework that you need to do just before establishing the first contact with the company. There is a lot of information out there that you can use.
Okay, great. One other question regarding the application process. So a lot of applications list techniques being advertised that you should know when you're applying for this position. How did you find, was it important to have knowledge regarding all of the techniques being advertised, or was there sort of more of a percentage that you needed to know?
I think that the list is kind of a wish list. So that is all the techniques that they wish the ideal candidate has. And because that is a description of an ideal profile, you don't necessarily expect to have the person that ticks every single box. But then kind of in reading into it, you can figure out which are kind of the most important. And if, let's say, I was reading application that listed bioinformatics skills, but they were not mainly about bioinformatics. And I don't have too much of a wish to come back to be a person working 100% or 50% even in the wet lab. So that was kind of more in a position to which I want to apply. But then for others that they were asking maybe for some skills that I don't have, but the main skills, so the one that will more likely impact the type of job that I was going to do, I have, then I will apply to that one. So think about prioritize in the list. So if you only can cover the bottom of the list and you necessarily can cover it just slowly, but maybe not. But even sometimes it's just worthy of apply. They might be interested in finding people that have the skills that let them to learn soon enough that they can be productive. So that is even something that you can highlight in the cover letter. Yeah, maybe I don't have experience in this and that, but you know what? I can learn that quickly. So it depends on how you see yourself doing the job in terms of the list of the techniques being a problem for the performance.
And I want to just say that I totally agree with what she was saying. Like personally, when I went for my on-site interview, like I was asked about one particular skill that if I do have that, and well, my answer was no, not at this point. But that really didn't prevent me from getting the job, because I think, as Katherine, if I'm correct, was talking about that, yes, you need to actually show them, even though if you're not having 100% of the skills, which mostly it's not going to be the case, you're still able to learn that and are eager and excited to learn new things and basically can add to that. So I don't really think if you don't have 100%, you're not going to get the job. But you do need to also show people that you do like to, improve and acquire new skills.
Great. Okay, so I think we have 3 more minutes, so maybe time for one last question here. Do any of you have advice for applying for a job without an advertisement? So say we're interested to apply for a specific company, but there are currently no job vacancies. They're posted online. What are your possible options in that scenario?
I would say network. I think actually that's one thing I wish I would have done sooner. I didn't actually start telling people that I knew that I was looking for a job until probably 4 to 5 months after I had already started applying. And in the end, that led to opportunities that I ended up dismissing because I had already gotten a job at that point. But those are really good opportunities that were not posted on a website anywhere, that were told to me just through networking. So I do think it's really important, and the other panel has touched on this too, to tell people early, ask them for advice. It's really good, especially if you're not getting it from somewhere. And grad school can be extremely isolating. So keep putting yourself out there and making those connections and asking people for help, because they want to help you succeed, because everybody has been in that position before. And so I think that's at least helped me learn about job opportunities that weren't necessarily advertised.
Yeah, I would say reach out, to human resources. Even though there is no, like job postings in that specific moment, in that specific time, companies are always looking for talent, for good talent. So if you are interested in a company and you really like that company and the business model, etc., just send a note and send your CV and resume to the human resources people. If they like it, they are going to reach out, to the hiring manager or to the managers, that person is going to fit the best, to that specific group, and they're going to keep you in mind for later openings. So yeah, do that. Network.
Okay, well, I think with that, we're right up at about the hour mark. So Sunil, was there anything else that you would like to share as we wrap up today's webinar?
Yeah, I just wanted to thank all the panel members. It was really interesting to hear different perspectives. 2 of the panel members had got jobs after their PhD and 2 did their postdoc. So we tried to have a diverse panel of members who can talk about their experience. So I hope everyone attending benefited from their experiences. Allison, can you pull up the final slide? Yeah, we just wanted to let you know, if you're a postdoc in plant-related fields, go to our website, www.plantpostdocs.com. And then if you want to join our group, you can join our group going through the website. And also we are active on Twitter. Please follow us on Twitter for all informations. Yeah, and one of them asked me a question on the chat. So with the list that we are preparing for the peer review, we'll talk about it more on Twitter. So if you want to know more about it, follow us on Twitter, and then we'll keep you posted. That's all for today's webinar. And I want to thank everyone for attending it. I want to thank Arif for his help. And I want to thank Allison for wonderfully managing this webinar. And of course, all the speakers for taking their time. Thank you.
Thank you.